the Russian army is strengthening its forces near Avdiivka despite the difficulties associated with the need to conduct frontal assaults and the failure of previous attacks, according to the latest report of the Institute for War Studies. American analysts note that despite the failure of the attack, which took place between October 19th and 20, additional Russian forces are still being directed towards the heavily fortified Avdiivka front. Additionally, the Russian authorities are increasing their efforts to mobilize communities from Central Asia. Reports by Russian military bloggers confirm previous expert assessments that frontal land attacks on Ukrainian positions in the Avdiivka area, which are heavily fortified, constitute a huge challenge and lead to significant losses on the Russian side. The authors of the Oryx blog, which documents Russia's losses in equipment during the war with Ukraine, confirmed the destruction of 9 Russian helicopters in the attack carried out by Ukraine on the airports in Berdyansk and Lugansk. 7 K-52 and 2 Mi-OCM helicopters were destroyed. By Oryx's calculations, 8 other K-52s and 7 Mi-8s were damaged. It is worth noting that the authors of the blog also included machines that are probably beyond repair in these statistics, although this cannot be confirmed without appropriate evidence, emphasized the author of the blog, Yakub Janovsky, on the X platform. Attack on airports in 2 occupied cities of Ukraine, in Berdyansk and Lugansk, took place on the night of October 16th to 17th. According to media reports, this was the first time the Ukrainian army used U.S.-supplied ATACMS ballistic missiles with a range of 160 kilometers. In July this year, British intelligence estimated that Russia had probably lost around 40 K-52 Alligator attack helicopters since the beginning of the invasion of Ukraine. According to estimates from October 2022, the Russian fleet of K-52 helicopters numbered 90 machines. The value of one such helicopter is approximately $16 million. In the occupied city of Novaya Kakhovka, in the Kherson Oblast in southern Ukraine, the local police subordinated to Moscow are looking for about 60 Russian soldiers who deserted from the aggressor's army, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces said on Monday morning in a statement. Information about desertions in the ranks of Russians has been appearing since February 24, 2022, that is, since the beginning of the Kremlin's invasion of Ukraine. Especially in the first months of the war, the Ukrainian authorities and media reported mass escapes from the battlefield, which were hidden by the commanders of Russian troops. Their superiors also allegedly threatened soldiers with shooting for trying to leave combat positions. In September, the Ukrainian project I Want to Live, operating under the auspices of military intelligence, reported that Russian citizens had already submitted over 25,000 reports. 3 people died in the last 24 hours as a result of shelling by Russian forces in the Donetsk Oblast in eastern Ukraine. These victims are residents of Avdiivka, as well as the towns of Kalinivka and Vasyukivka. The acting head of the governor of this region, Ihor Moroz, announced on Monday morning. Currently, Avdiivka is the point of the most intense fighting during the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. The aggressor forces trying to surround this city constantly bombard it. The reports of various Russian military bloggers contain contradictory information regarding the situation on Ukraine's eastern front. One of them claims that Ukrainian forces made a surprise counterattack in the area of Pisky, 8 kilometers southwest of Donetsk, and drove Russian troops from the area. Another blogger disputes these reports, suggesting that the information about the progress of Ukrainian forces near Pisky and Opitna, 4 kilometers south of Avdiivka, is false. Geolocation material released on October 21st indicates a small attack by Russian forces southeast of Pervomaisk, 11 kilometers southwest of Avdiivka. Another Russian military blogger reports that the Avdiivka area has not been fully cleared and is now a disputed gray zone. Therefore, in difficult conflict conditions, information may be contradictory, which emphasizes the need to use different sources and wait for confirmation of official reports in order to obtain a more comprehensive picture of the situation on Ukraine's eastern front. A military observer from a Kremlin-linked source stressed that conducting a maneuver war on a static front line where both sides have large numbers of personnel and heavily fortified areas on both sides, is difficult. He noted that the growing role of Ukrainian drones and precision weapons makes armored vehicles increasingly vulnerable to attacks, complicating ground operations. The blogger also noted that Russian troops are encountering difficulties in crossing Ukrainian minefields near Avdiivka. Additionally, they are unable to completely destroy Ukrainian logistics, which allows Ukrainian commanders to quickly move personnel to key areas. These challenges in conducting operations on a static front line underscore the changing nature of modern warfare, where innovative technologies and tactics are increasingly important and traditional ground operations face significant difficulties in the face of new threats. Ukrainian sources report that despite significant losses, Russian troops continue to send personnel to the Avdiivka sector to reinforce the offensive. The spokesman for the Tavria group, Colonel Alexander Stupun, stated that Russian forces were transferring personnel directly from Russian territory to the Avdiivka sector in order to replace the personnel losses incurred. This suggests that Russia is continuing its efforts to strengthen its forces in the area, although this may come at a significant human cost. Fighting in the Avdiivka sector appears to remain active and important for both sides of the conflict. The spokeswoman for the Ukrainian forces in southern Ukraine, Natalia Humeniuk, emphasized that reports of the landing on the left, eastern bank of the Dnieper in the Kherson Oblast are premature. Her words suggest that activities are currently underway in various directions. Commenting on the reports about the landing published by the American Institute for the Study of War, Humeniuk noted that it cannot yet be considered a confirmed fact. Currently, these are only analysts' conclusions, the spokeswoman emphasized, quoted by Ukrinform on Sunday evening. The spokeswoman for the Ukrainian forces in the south of the country, Natalia Humeniuk, explained that they are conducting combat operations in different directions and using different strategies. Currently, they place particular emphasis on fighting against artillery because one of their goals is to clear some of the areas on the left bank of the Dnieper from enemy troops. Humeniuk emphasized that it is necessary to improve the situation on the right bank because occupation troops are shelling and attacking it from across the river. Therefore, the current main priority of the Ukrainian forces is to improve the lives of the civilian population on the right bank of the Dnieper. That is the inhabitants of the Kherson Oblast on the western side of the river. The spokeswoman warned that such reports of troop advances hampered army operations. Natalia Humeniuk pointed out that the Russians are increasing the mine threat in the Black Sea. During her briefing, she also said that Ukrainian forces managed to destroy a mine that was washed up on the beach in Chornomorsk, Odessa Oblast, by rough seas. It is worth emphasizing that this task was not easy because the sea was very rough. Russia is considering moving some of its ships from the Baltic Sea to Lake Ladoga, east of the Gulf of Finland, as a potential response to NATO's expansion in the Baltic region. This information was reported by the Moscow Times website, citing reports from the Izvestia Daily. However, it should be noted that the final decision on this matter has not been made yet. Small missile ships would be evacuated to Lake Ladoga. The Russian military analyzed the conditions on the lake and also conducted maneuvers in this area. Ladoga is located about 40 kilometers from the border with Finland. Expert Dmitry Boltenkov, quoted by Izvestia, considered the transfer of the ships to be a reasonable military and political response to Sweden and Finland's accession to NATO. He also emphasized that Lake Ladoga is not that well known to Western intelligence services. Small missile ships are effective platforms for deploying various types of weapons, including potentially Zircon-type hypersonic missiles. Karakurt-class units can launch Caliber cruise missiles, capable of hitting targets at a distance of 2,600 kilometers, according to Russian media information. In 2019 to 21, Russia introduced 3 ships into service in the Baltic Sea. Russia also plans to send further Bujan M ships to the Baltic Fleet. According to available information, these ships may be equipped with Onyx missiles with warheads weighing 300 kilograms, capable of hitting sea and ground targets at a distance of up to 500 kilometers. according to a statement published on the Telegram channel, which regularly features information about Russian leader Vladimir Putin. The Russian Prime Minister experienced a cardiac arrest on Sunday evening. A channel called General SVR suggests that all of Putin's recent appearances, including his trips abroad, have been made through a look-alike. He also claims that doctors had to resuscitate Putin before he was taken to a special intensive care unit at his official residence. The station reports that doctors performed resuscitation after determining that the president had suffered a cardiac arrest. Help was provided on time, the heart started beating, and Putin regained consciousness. It is worth noting that Kremlin officials had previously vehemently denied any health problems with the 71-year-old Putin. A post on the General SVR channel, which claims to have an inside source in Putin's entourage, provided further details of the incident. According to this information, the president's security officers heard noise and the sounds of falling coming from his bedroom around 10 p.m. Moscow time. Two security guards immediately entered the bedroom and saw Putin lying on the floor next to an overturned table with food and drinks. The post also claims that when Putin fell, he hit the table and dishes, which caused the noise. Putin was lying on the floor, arching his back and rolling his eyes. Doctors on duty at his residence were immediately called and provided first aid, and Putin was taken to a specially equipped room in his residence, where the medical equipment necessary for resuscitation was installed. The president's condition is currently stabilized and is under constant medical supervision.